Hi everyone and welcome to Studio Jake. Before I get into today's topic, be sure to like this video. Whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, be sure to share it out to all your friends so that they can see it. Sorry if my voice sounds a little crackly. I have a little bit of a sore throat. Anyway, if you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to this channel, ring the little bell. That way you get notifications whenever I post a new video. YouTube does this weird thing where it curates your content so you don't see everything right away. So be sure to activate your notifications. Same for Facebook. Like my Facebook page, follow it, and be sure to turn on the notifications. That way you get alerts every time. Today, I'm going to be talking about a little bit more somber topic. Of course, as you know, or maybe you hadn't heard, but the great actor Kirk Douglas, he passed away yesterday, February 5th, 2020, and I just wanted to pay him a little bit of tribute today. So a little bit more somber, but with that in mind, sit back, relax, and welcome to Studio Jake. So as I mentioned, Kirk Douglas passed away on February 5th, 2020, and I just wanted to pay special tribute to him. I'm not going to do a full obituary because there are men and women who are way more elegant than me who can write way better obituaries and tributes to him. So I thought, as a fan of his work, I've seen many of his films, I thought I would instead read you the review I wrote for the very first film I saw him in, which was Walt Disney's 1954 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's an impressive film, it's an incredible film, and I just thought it would be a good idea that's how I pay tribute to the great actor, because of course I've seen him in a ton of other stuff. He was of course in Spartacus, he was in Champions, he was in The War Wagon with John Wayne, which is probably, looking at it, is probably one of my favorite films with him because I'm a huge John Wayne fan, so seeing him with the Duke is always a treat. But I just really wanted to pay tribute to him by reading off the very first movie I had seen him in, because I think that it would be a good way to pay tribute to him, honoring his legacy, because it was one of the first movies that I had seen that was considered a kid's movie. Even though Walt Disney made it, it was not what I would consider a kid's movie. It was very action-packed. It had a lot of adult themes in the sense that they talk about war and things like that. Walt Disney himself, he was still alive at the time. He actually produced it, though he went uncredited. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the film and just give my thoughts on it and why I loved it so much. So here we go. Without further ado, here is my classic film review of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Adapted from the Jules Verne novel of the same name, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is a 1954 film from Walt Disney Productions. It was directed by Richard Fleischer from a screenplay by Earl Felton, and as I said before, Walt Disney himself served as an uncredited producer of the feature. Professor Pierre M. Aronnax, played by Paul Lucas, and his assistant Cosno, played by Peter Lorre, set sail on a naval expedition with the arrogant harpooner Ned Land, who was played by Kirk Douglas, to the Pacific Ocean upon hearing rumors of a sea monster. A few months later, the crew spot a disabled vessel A few months later, the crew spot a disabled vessel and later the monster they're looking for. They open fire but are rammed by the beast, forcing Aronnax, Ned, and Cosnell overboard. After drifting away, the trio encounter a metal vessel that turns out to be the mysterious monster. After sneaking aboard the ship known as the Nautilus, they are soon captured by the enigmatic Captain Nemo, played by James Mason, and they're forced to live aboard the ship. As Ned plots an escape, Aronnax gets to know Nemo and finds that that Nemo, he sees himself and his crew as protectors of the sea and will stop at nothing to prevent what they see as war. Now, as a kid, I was an avid reader of Jules Verne. I love Jules Verne novels. I even went through a period where I considered myself a Vernian. For those of you who don't know what a Vernian is, it's someone who believes Jules Verne's novels are based on actual science. Because he was scientifically accurate on a lot of stuff, but he had to fill in the gaps whenever he was writing fiction, as fiction writers do, me included. So when my parents came home with this adaptation, I was incredibly excited, and I never noticed the age of the film because the story came to life. At the time of its release, its special effects were praised, winning 2 Academy Awards for Best Art Direction and Best Special Effects. This is particularly the case for the epic battle between the crew of Nautilus and the giant squid. This battle stuck in my head for a long time, as it definitely grabs your attention. As a funny aside, when I was a kid watching the film, and I saw the battle, I actually, between the Nautilus and the squid, I actually wanted a second battle. I actually was hoping that towards the climax of the film that the giant squid would appear again, because some circumstances, in my opinion, kind of built up for that. And I even commented to my mom and dad that I hoped it would return. Now, the movie's setting on the Nautilus is a perfect match for the tone. In fact, the movie is considered to be a frontrunner in steampunk fiction. Now, steampunk fiction, for those of you unaware, steampunk is like science fiction, but instead of futuristic or kind of a dystopian future where the technology reigns supreme, steampunk, it's sort of takes technology from the steam era and enhances it. So a good example of this would be Avatar: The Last Airbender. You definitely see it more prominently in Avatar: The Legend of Korra, and there's a couple other ones. There's a great Studio Ghibli film called Castle in the Sky that would definitely be considered steampunk fiction. So if you're interested in that, go check those out. You'll see what I'm talking about. And this, of course, is a credit to Felton, who did a great job adapting the novel for the big screen. Now, I want to praise the actors for their roles because these actors were incredible. Mason as Captain Nemo plays him as a sort of anti-hero who truly believes that he is doing the right thing for the sea. He is cunning, mesmerizing, and spellbinding as he waxes philosophy. He is physically intimidating, but also agreeable as he disguises his beliefs in what he thinks is the right thing. So Lucas as Aronnax is, of course, I think it's actually Arono. I think I'm pronouncing it phonetically, but let me know in the comments below. But anyway, while he did not look like how I had pictured the character when I read the book, the actor did not hold back his talent. His character's conversations with Nemo are interesting. I also appreciated his facial expressions. When Nemo reveals the cigars they are smoking are made from seaweed, Lucas's expression is perfect as both intrigue and slight disgust. This is peak excellent acting. Last but certainly not least, Kirk Douglas as Ned Land is superb. This was the first film I had watched with him in a starring role, and he certainly steals the screen as the arrogant sailor who sees the madman in Nemo and desires to escape the submarine. He is excellent in the role, and I can not imagine someone else playing Ned. Now, of course, on my blog, I always do a bottom line. Bottom line, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is an excellently made film that has incredible performances and enthralling story. The movie is definitely a classic for both its superb adaptation of the Jules Verne novel and the talent that brought it together. Now, there is some minor language in it, and it does have some violence. Like I said, sorry, my throat is really acting up. Like I said, but it is. If your kids are older, more mature, it's definitely for them. I believe it's streaming on Disney Plus. My favorite quote from the film is from Captain Nemo. He says, "I am not what is called a civilized man, Professor. I have done with society for reasons that seem good to me. Therefore, I do not obey its laws." Incredible quote delivered excellently by Mason. I want to say one final thing on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and also on Kirk Douglas. So you've got Mason playing Captain Nemo, you've got Kirk Douglas playing Ned Land, and you've got Lucas playing the Professor. So I want to make a note on how masculinity is portrayed in these films, because all three of these actors bring a different type of masculinity. So you've got Nemo, who's kind of the roguish anti-hero who sees himself as the protector of the sea. He guards it and watches over it, and he's tough and kind of physically intimidating, but he's well learned. He came up from a poor background. He came up in a penal colony, led a revolt against it, and of course that became his base later in, or as it shows in the film, and he becomes captain of the Nautilus. He builds this amazing feat of engineering. And you've got the professor, who is incredibly well learned. He's got a lot of knowledge, and he has the wisdom to use that knowledge. And he's enthralled by Nemo. And though he might disagree with how he does things, he definitely respects him and he sees them. And of course, Ned Land, who's this arrogant and tough harpoonist who definitely makes mistakes throughout the film. But one thing that has come up recently that kind of came out of sort of the Time's Up Me Too era is this, and it was actually happening before with the popularity of third wave feminism, and that's how masculinity was attacked on film. So it is a shame because all three of these men, they play different types of men, but they're all very masculine, and they all um, portray it in a way that is positive. Now, certainly Nemo is sort of an anti-hero, and obviously I am totally against ramming vessels that you see are threats just randomly because of your sense of philosophy. Obviously, I'm against that, but masculinity itself is not inherently bad. It's not inherently evil. It can become toxic, as the politically correct people like to say. I like to throw around the word toxic and problematic. But masculinity is a good thing, and it's something that especially is shown by these three actors and Kirk Douglas, who all throughout his years in his filmography, he used to show a light on what men can do, the feats of men. So, for instance, Spartacus. Now, the movie itself is really historically inaccurate, and it was written by a commie, but the idea of the film of this man standing up to a powerful force and him leading a revolt against it. Now, of course, Spartacus ends very tragically and whatnot. And also the War Wagon, where he's working with John Wayne, someone else who has been seen as kind of this ideal Western male. He's masculine. Now, John Wayne was not a perfect person. He said and did some stupid things in his personal life. Still a great actor, and he still portrays a certain type of man that is needed for society to function. And I really miss these films. I think one of the reasons I like the MCU so much and comic books is, now this isn't true in all of them, because especially Marvel Comics is trying to delude masculinity and portray it as something bad, and they're trying to take away femininity, which I think is really weird, and everyone's just kind of becoming like this mesh now. But in the movies, to me, it really shows what a masculine man can do. Someone like a Captain America, someone like an Iron Man, someone like a Thor, and in the case of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, someone like a Captain Nemo, someone like the Professor, someone like Ned Land. These people, by no means perfect men, are really are what make these movies enthralling, and it's the same with the women. To me, I know a lot of conservatives kind of throw around they didn't really like Black Widow, but to me, they show Black Widow as a feminine woman. Sure, she's got these amazing, fantastic abilities, but she always has this sort of story to tell, and her wits and her wisdom are very much appreciated. Same with the characters of Sharon Carter and Wanda Maximoff. I really feel like that's why those movies are important to society. And I know there's going to be conservatives who are going to yell at me, Captain Marvel. Sure, Captain Marvel was sort of an in-between, and it wasn't one of their best films ever. Obviously, it wasn't. It was still a good film. I think sort of the hippy dippy, girl power in the film was blown up by conservative reviewers, but I still think that masculinity is important because it is a staple of society. It is something important to society. And even in the East, where they have kind of different opinions about femininity and masculinity, they still see masculinity as a good force. Masculinity itself isn't inherently negative. It is an important part of their societies, and same with femininity. And I think we need to stop getting to this point where we're trying to make everyone the same. What we need to do is look at characters like Kirk Douglas in the film 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or Spartacus, or The War Wagon, and look at that and say, wow, that is impressive. Femininity and masculinity are equal, but that doesn't make them the same. When everything is the same, no one is special. Nothing is special. That's why we have these different traits. And now I'm not talking about all these different types are, there's just one type of masculinity or there's just one type of femininity. No, certainly not. And there are exceptions to the rules, obviously. That's fine. They can be. But I think that we need to stop alienating masculinity. And Kirk Douglas, he is a credit to masculinity, the way he portrays it in his films, the way he talks about it. A man who came from being dirt poor to serving his country during World War II and then becoming one of the most famous actors of all time. He will be missed. He is loved, and I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Alright, and that's all the time I have for today. Like I said earlier, be sure to like this video, share it out. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, ring the bell. If you're on Facebook, like this Facebook page and turn on the notifications so you get a note every time. I hope you enjoy these new podcasts that I'm doing. I'm trying this audio-only format. I know it's tough today because I had a little bit of a sore throat. Sorry about that. Sorry it got so gravelly. But I do hope that you enjoy them. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. And what do you think about Kirk Douglas? What's your favorite Kirk Douglas film? Do you like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Let me know. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. It's at RealJacobAiry. Instagram is at RealJacobAiry. Of course, Facebook is Author Jacob Airy. YouTube is StudioJake. You can find my blog, www.jacobairy.blog. That's JACOBAIREY.blog. And also, if you're wondering what to get your boo for Valentine's Day, she's a bookworm, you have no idea, or he's a bookworm, you have no idea, get them my fantasy novel, The Seven Royals, All Good Things. It's about knights and princes and princesses and an evil mage. You can get it everywhere books are sold. You can get it on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. If you're on Rakuten, you can get it on their Kobo e-reader downloads. You can get it on Apple Books. And of course, you can get it directly from my publisher, BookLocker.com. Be sure to pick up your copy today. You want to get it here in time for Valentine's Day. Well, that's all the time I have for today. Be sure to say hello to all your friends, and be sure to watch a Kirk Douglas movie this weekend. I'll see you next time, right here on Studio Jake.